What's going on, guys, and welcome back to WWE Network and Chill, where every single week I, Graham G.S. Matthews, break down all the original content that I watch on the WWE Network. Today we're talking the latest edition of WWE Ride Along that aired on the network after all this past week, entitled Orlando Odyssey, featuring the likes of Sonya Deville, Mandy Rose, and the now former friends of Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch. Now, obviously, this was filmed well before SummerSlam. We had our last episode of Ride Along, like back in July. So I don't know why it took them this long to air the show. Maybe just because they had other stuff they wanted to air first with Story Time, the Mick Foley Q&A, or the Mick Foley Special, and all that other stuff. But yeah, it's been a solid 3 months since our last episode of Ride Along, and it's been 2 months since Charlotte and Becky Lynch broke up as friends on TV. So I'm not really sure why it took this long to air the episode, but we got a bit of a recap at the beginning of the episode of the friendship of Becky and Charlotte and the subsequent split dating back to SummerSlam. So, disregarding all the bad blood from recent months, Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch, once really, really good friends on the show, I'm sure still are in real life. They're in Orlando, at the Performance Center for a photo shoot for Evolution. And they're all driving from the PC in Orlando, the Performance Center, to Gainesville for probably SmackDown, since I assume they're all on SmackDown by this point. It's about an hour and 45-minute drive, we're told. So Rose and Sonya, they have the word Roseville on their license plate. I'm not sure if that's like a nickname they have for each other, or if that's something the directors of Ride Along came up with to use for their license plate. Not the last time, or not the first time, rather, that we've seen something like this. We've seen people on Ride Along have customized title plates before, license plates before, so this is nothing new. So they recap the photo shoot they had to do for Evolution. Sonya, Mandy, Becky, Charlotte, they all talk about doing the photo shoot. Becky seems very open and honest about photo shoots not really being her thing, and I can't say I'm surprised by that. Becky and Charlotte discuss being back at the PC after so long. Obviously, they're on the main roster now. They're not really at the PC on the regular as much as they were a few years ago. Then we're introduced to Dandy's Donuts, something I was not aware of. I'm sure people are already aware of this if you follow the former Absolution members, Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville, on social media. I think it's something they do on Snapchat, probably mostly Snapchat and Instagram. It's basically where they just go eat donuts, and they review donuts from across the country and the world. So they kind of reintroduce us to that because they do eat donuts on this episode. Meanwhile, Charlotte wants a kombucha, something like that. I have no idea what that is. I think it's something along the lines of like a drink or like a mini... It looks like a little shot glass or something. It's obviously not alcohol. I don't know what the hell it is, but it's called a kombucha. And it sounds like something that Becky would want to have too. Becky's voice is raspy, just to give you a heads up. She talks about it here real quickly, that she got punched in the throat the night before, I believe, at like a house show or something. So she has a raspy voice throughout the entire episode, even more so than it already is. So all four of them eat food. Mandy and Sonya have a bunch of donuts, and Charlotte and Becky had their kombuchas. And they haven't even left town yet. I think all four of them are still in Orlando and still have yet to make the drive from Orlando to Gainesville. So Sonya, after eating, I don't know if she ate one donut. It made it seem like with the box they had in their hands, it looked like she had more than one. But even if it was one, she starts burping uncontrollably, like a lot. Not just like once, but she starts burping a bunch of times. Because I guess maybe their stomachs aren't like used to eating fast food because they're always working out and dieting and stuff. So maybe that's why she doesn't feel too well. Sonya and Mandy recall meeting each other at the Tough Enough tryout back in 2015, how they were immediately kind of like drawn to each other when they first met a number of years ago. Meanwhile, Charlotte discusses the ESPN photo shoot that she was a part of a few months ago, where she was nude, but not really nude. Like, obviously you didn't see anything, but like she had her robe on, she was in the ring. She was essentially naked, covering up her private parts, of course, but she did a nude, but not really nude, like an implied nude photo shoot. Like the ones that I've talked about on Total Bellas before, Total Divas before, and on Ms. and Mrs. before. That's basically what it was. And Charlotte talks about that and being nervous, and how she wasn't really nervous to do it, but she was nervous when she had to like drop the robe and be naked. Like, I'm sure she had like something on her breasts and obviously on whatever else to kind of cover up for photographers. I'm sure she wasn't fully naked in the ring. Maybe she was. She didn't really disclose that here. But she also asks Becky, that's going to be you next year. And Becky's like, yeah, no, I'm all set. I'm sure there's people that won't complain about that, but Becky does not really seem like the person that would be up for something like that. Meanwhile, Sonya recalls the fallen angel character that she portrayed on Tough Enough. I guess I remember this loosely. They had to do some sort of like gimmicks or characters on Tough Enough. So Sonya was the fallen angel. No, not Christopher Daniels, just a literal angel who fell down in the ring because that's what she thought the fallen angel was, which is so beyond stupid. And even Mandy and Sonya herself call it stupid. It was that dumb, but somehow they still got signed, so congrats to them. In the Charlotte car, they FaceTime Ric. We don't actually see Ric, we do hear Ric. So always great to hear from the Nature Boy Ric Flair. Typical Ric Flair fashion. Well, first of all, they recall the episode that Ric and Charlotte had of photoshoot a few years ago. So they recall that. And then Ric audibly on the phone, I'm not really sure why they didn't cut this out. I'm glad they kept it. But he goes, WWE asked me to be at Evolution. Why would I need to be at Evolution? And Charlotte's like, to support the girls? Like, I'm your daughter. I'm going to be there. And then Ric's like, well, it's got to be something big. Like, it's got to be like the right payday. He didn't say that, but I'm like, this is amazing. I don't know if he was talking about the Evolution. I'm sure he's talking about the pay-per-view, but because this was months ago, I'm sure the Evolution reunion at SmackDown 1000 coming up came long after this episode of Photoshoot was filmed. I'm sure that kind of came together long after this episode had taken place a few months ago. So I thought that was just hilarious. And then, to add on top of that, he says he hates Long Island. And Charlotte says, Dad, you're on FaceTime. Like, people can hear you. The audio is audible. Like, people can hear you. And he goes, let me repeat myself. I hate Long Island. Like, I was waiting for an F-bomb to drop. That was the only thing that saved this from being perfect. But as it was still pretty great. Always great to hear from the Nature Boy, like I said. Mandy and Sonya talk about going to a gay pride parade. Charlotte and Becky talk about Australia having ecosexuals. A lot of weird shit discussed on this episode. A lot of weird shit. I didn't know what this was, but apparently Charlotte says that an ecosexual in Australia, which I guess has a lot of them, is someone that has sex with the earth. I wish I had not known that. I really wish they had left that out because that was something I did not need to know. Moving on, Sonya and Mandy play a game of Never Have I Ever. They discuss wearing bikinis and how Sonya's like, well, again, a lot of weird shit discussed on this episode. Because Sonya essentially accuses Mandy of wearing like a thong bikini. Mandy's like, it's not a thong bikini. I have thong bikinis. That wasn't one of them. The one that Sonya was referring to. And Sonya goes, she clarifies, if the bikini eats up your ass, it's a fucking thong bikini. She doesn't say the word fucking, though she did say the word ass, which was pretty funny. And then Mandy accuses Sonya of wearing granny panties for a bathing suit, which Mandy or Sonya clarifies, which is accurate. That's the way that bikinis and, stuff like that should be. Not, that your entire ass should not need to be showing in order for it to be qualify as like a full-fledged bikini. Sonya was a bit more conservative with her attire when it came to going to the beach. Mandy, not so much. So they discuss that. We get pictures. So if you're into that type of thing, you're probably loving this episode. Charlotte and Becky, on the other hand, play a game rather of fortunately/unfortunately, which is where Charlotte would say, oh, fortunately, the hotel's only 12 minutes away. And then Becky would say, well, unfortunately, the hotel's being eaten up by ants, and it's being burned to the ground, and all this other stuff. So I've never heard of that game before. I guess it's a new game. I'm not sure. But they go back and forth with that for a little bit. Mandy and Sonya just start bonding over all this stuff they have in common, like favorite cereals, favorite breakfast foods, they like Dunkin' Donuts, all this other stuff. They're clearly two peas in a pod. They get along very well together, if it wasn't already evident. Becky wants to stop en route to Gainesville for oranges. She sees some sort of like shop on the side of the road, not like a shop, not like a Stop and Shop, but like not like not like a pharmacy or something like that, or a CVS. It's a fucking like little like a fruit market thing on the side of the road, and obviously it's midnight or close to the nighttime by this point, and it's closed. Becky was very disappointed. She said, "Aren't you upset that it wasn't open?" Like some dumb pun like that in typical Becky fashion, which Charlotte clearly did not appreciate. She was not all in for the puns on this episode. But she wanted to stop for oranges, a bit disappointed when she found out it wasn't open. They discuss Evolution and being a part of it coming up, and how they never really imagined when they were in NXT that something like that could be at one point possible to be a part of an all-women's pay-per-view. Mandy and Sonya discuss going full circle, going from being a part of the first ever Women's Royal Rumble earlier this year, the first ever Women's Elimination Chamber match earlier this year, as well as the Evolution pay-per-view coming up in a couple weeks. Maybe that's why they decided to air this now, just because Evolution is coming up in a few weeks at the end of the month. I assume that's the only way I can really... I don't know why they would not have aired this sooner, unless they had other stuff they really, really, really wanted to air first, because it seems a bit outdated by this point with Becky and Charlotte. But anyway, they all arrive at the hotel. Mandy and Sonya feel sick after eating so many donuts. And then to close out the episode, we get a brief music video called Literally, or Literally whatever, with Dandy Roseville. Mandy and Sonya just saying literally like 100 times over the course of the episode in the car. So that does it for the Orlando Odyssey edition of WWE Ride Along. Thank you guys for checking out my review. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more content. Hoping to have my review up of Total Divas this coming Saturday. So this is what I hope to be doing going forward. Having the Network and Chill up on Tuesdays, the Monday Motivation videos up on Mondays, hashtag AskGSM up on Wednesdays, Wrestle Rant radio excerpts up on Thursdays, WWE Network and Chill reviewing Wrestle Rant up on Fridays, and then Network and Chill reviewing the latest episode of Total Divas up on Saturdays, and then miscellaneous videos up on Sundays, if I have anything up at all. So that's the new plan, so stay tuned for that and all the other videos. So subscribe. That's basically what I'm saying here in a nutshell. Subscribe to the channel for all the content at your fingertips. It's now easier than ever to binge all my episodes here on the channel, but if you subscribe, it shows up in your subscription feed, hopefully. Whenever a new video pops up, you can check it out, like it, comment, share the video, all that other great stuff I just mentioned. Catch me on the socials as well, on Twitter at WrestleRant, on Facebook at facebook.com/Graham.GSM.Matthews. Have a great rest of your week, folks. I'm Graham GSM Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.